أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Today's topic is on the articulation point of the letter Noon. Noon is a letter from two areas. It's the tip of the tongue letter along with the area that is the near edge of the tongue, the top edge of the tongue. So there is two areas of the tongue that are involved in the articulation of Noon. The tip of the tongue along with the upper surface of the tongue, which is the edge of the tongue. And also, Noon has the sound that travels also through the nose area, right? The Khaishum area, which is also one of the outlets for the sound of Noon. So two areas, the area of the tip of the tongue and the surface of the tongue, near the edge of the tongue, and the nose. So if you look at this diagram here, on the left, it says it is articulated from the tip of the tongue and what lies opposite to it of the gums of the two top front incisors slightly beneath the articulation point for lam. Since we haven't discussed lam, a best way to remember this is your tip of the tongue, that is the edge of the tongue, and also a small part of the surface of the tongue, the top surface of the tongue behind the edge of the tongue. So you have two areas here, the tip of the tongue and the surface of the tongue behind the tip of the tongue. Okay? If you see here, if you see, look at the diagram on your right, you will see the area being highlighted in green. And then I have marked the red. I made it into an area where I have shown you where this area is in a red circle. Okay, that's where you have not just the tip of the tongue, but also the surface of the tongue involved in the articulation of the sound of Noon. So what's happening in Noon is the tip and the surface, top surface of the tongue touches the gums of the top front incisors, okay? And the sound is cut. The sound is stopped. But the sound runs out from the nose area. So there is two things happening here. There is stopping of the stopping of the sound. And where is the stopping taking place? It's taking place at the gums of the top incisors. And where is the sound running? The sound is running through the nose. The sound is running through the nose. So there is partial running of sound and partial stopping of sound. Okay? There's partial running of sound and there is partial stopping of sound. And what happens when this happens? This makes the letter moderately strong. It's not very strong. It has partial strength and partial weakness. Okay, so it is a moderate letter. Moderate meaning tawassut letter. Okay, it's a letter of tawassut, of moderate strength. Okay, so keep in mind two areas, from the tip of the tongue and from the nose in the articulation of the sound of the articulation of the letter Noon. Because it runs from, the sound is running from the nose, there is nasalization. What is nasalization? It's called ghunna. There is ghunna. When you have Noon, Noon will always have a ghunna. You can never separate the ghunna from the Noon. Okay? Noon will always have ghunna. Even if you are doing the, if you have learnt about the tajweed rules and they talk about idhar, there will still be a ghunna in the idhar. Okay, it's just that the sound is not prolonged to two harakas in idhar, but there is still a ghunna in the noon, because you can't separate the ghunna from the noon. It's a sifa of the letter noon. When I let the sound of noon run in my nose for a length of 2 counts, then I am doing a ghunna, a strong ghunna, like in noon mushadda, right? When you see a noon with a mushadda, and I say an, okay, that is a ghunna that I'm stretched to 2 counts. If I'm just reading noon with a sukoon, I'll say an. There's still a ghunna in noon there. That you cannot take out the ghunna from noon. It still exists. Okay? But it is not as prolonged as when you see it with the shadda. Okay, here again, a nice beautiful way of saying it. The noon here, the tip of the tongue and the top surface of the tongue is touching the gums of the front teeth, the front incisors. Okay? When the noon is hidden, the articulation point changes. Okay, this is, they are talking about ikhfa, right? They are talking about ikhfa because what is ikhfa? To hide. And ikhfa of noon sakina is, or tanween is nothing but hiding the sound of noon. So when you hide the sound of noon, the articulation point changes from the tip of the tongue to the articulation point of the next letter, the letter that follows. Okay, the letter that follows the noon sakina, and that's what causes the hiding. Like the word anfusihim, like if you say anfusihim, you have noon sakin followed by fa. So I have to hide the sound of noon. And how do I hide the sound of noon? I do not get, I do not let the tip of my tongue touch, I don't let it touch the makhraj of noon. Okay, I bring it close to the makhraj of noon. I bypass it and go to the next makhraj, which is fa here. So I'll say it as anfusihim, an, an, an. Here, the tip of the tongue is not touching the makhraj of noon. Okay, and then I move it. I get it close to the makhraj of noon. I do not touch it, and I go immediately to the makhraj of fa. And that's how I hide the noon sakina. In the case of idgham, noon sakina is merged in the letter following it, and this again changes its articulation point from the tip of the tongue to the articulation point of it, of the letter it is merged, like may yasha, may yasha. So again here this articulation point changes to the letter that it is merging with. Now when is it that you touch the articulation point? Is when you do a noon shadda. Okay, an, an. So you can notice that the tip of the tongue is touching the gums of the upper central incisors, and the sound is let to flow through your nose. Okay, and that's how you get the ghunna. Okay, and you let the sound linger in your nose for 2 counts to make a perfect ghunna. Okay, I hope that is clear. Okay, we will do lam and ra again, inshallah, in a separate video. I want to do both lam and ra together along with bod. So